Hi guys, Mr. Hill here with your English lesson for today. So, yesterday we boxed up our model text. We picked out all the features that helped us build our story arc. Today, we're going to use the model text and we're going to box up and develop our own ideas. So we're going to take the box up we did yesterday and develop our own ideas of how to write an overcoming the monster story. So we need to think about improving descriptions. So at the moment on the screen, you've got a picture. It's quite plain. There's not very much color in there. There's nothing like that. This is where our descriptions come in. We can use how we describe things to paint the picture, to fill in the colors and fill in the gaps. So cut out the obvious. Why use predictable words to describe something? So try and avoid the blue sky with white fluffy clouds as an example. You want to think about how you can make it a better description, but using less words. Now that's the challenge. So when someone hears the word sky, what do they picture? They automatically think blue. And when you say clouds, they'll see them as white and fluffy. So adjectives like these are unnecessary and they can really bog down your writing. It can get really hard to read it. So cut those descriptive words out of the sentence. You could just have the blue sky with clouds. It's a very short sentence. It describes what's there, but it doesn't really pull your reader in. It doesn't make you want to carry on reading. So maybe think of a different way to describe it. Pause the video here, have a go yourselves, and then I'll share what I came up with. Okay, how did we get on with that? The one I came up with, the sky was dotted with cotton. So when we think of the sky, we normally think of it as being blue. Cotton, if you think about cotton wool balls or cotton pads, they're all nice and soft and fluffy. And that's the image you're trying to create. And in white. So all we're doing is we've taken the two adjectives from our first sentence, white and fluffy. What else is white and fluffy? So we've come up with cotton. So it just helps to build the description. And I'm sure you'll agree that's a much better sentence than what we started out with. It's the exact same image and it's much shorter and it's a lot more focused. So improving our descriptions, how do we go about doing it? Use surprising words. So once your sentences are free of obvious descriptive details, you have the space to pepper in some more interesting words. So instead of saying the big dragon, for example, using our image on the screen, you could have the gigantic dragon. It gives you the same idea, but gigantic gives you the idea of scale. Big depends on what you're referring it to. Gigantic, it's a huge, great big thing. It gives you that description. It improves your writing. For instance, if you want to describe a rainy day, the easy way to describe it would be to mention the stormy sky or the grey sky. Yeah, it does the job, but it's not very interesting for the reader. You could come up with something a little more unique. It could be the angry sky or the boiling sky. See, they give you the same idea that there's a storm brewing, but you're not actually saying the word storm. You're using some different adjectives that really build up that image, and that's what our writing needs to have. So think of some common adjectives that you would use and other describing words, and use them in unique ways to keep your writing fresh and interesting. Pause the video here, take a second, have a go, think of some common adjectives and see if you can find some other ways of describing those common features. Okay, how did you get on with those? So we can take boring common adjectives and we can use them in different ways as well. So we can use them in unique ways and they really bring a different flavor to your writing, if you like. So moving on, we need to remember sensory details as well. We've got 5 senses: show, don't tell. So we did this when we were hinting at the unknown, when we were doing our Jungle Book story. We had hints, we had clues. So when we did our own writing about the tiger, we talked about flashes of orange caught in the flames. We talked about shining lights shining off eyes. We gave clues and hints, and we let the reader build up the image that actually it's a tiger. So using that practice that we had then, use it again here. Think of ways of describing. So when we're talking about the dragon, we can talk about the gleaming scales, the dagger-like teeth, the leathery wings. That gives you an idea of how it's going to build up. So like I was just doing, sprinkle in specific details. So using the dragon again, so we had on sight, had gleaming scales, dagger-like teeth, leathery wings. Those are sight. Hearing, rumbling, roaring, those sorts of words will bring this to life. Taste. What can you taste in the air? Is there a particular smoky flavor to the air? Touch. How's it going to feel? How you could think about the knight's sword there. The touch of cold steel. Because we know from our materials in science that metal can be cold to the touch. The smell. What can you smell? When I see dragon, I think of the smell of burning, and particularly sort of the smell of tarmac. If you've ever been past a road that's been freshly laid, there's a really strong smell in there. That's the smell I would associate. So I try and find a way of describing it that would give that image to my reader. It'll bring your scenes to life. It'll bring your reader into them, make them feel richer, more interesting. It'll bring the reader in, as I said, and it'll make them want to carry on reading because you've brought up this a really lifelike image in their head of what you're writing about. So we've got figurative language as well. So we describe things in more interesting ways. So we have comparisons, similes. So I used one there, teeth like daggers, eyes as shiny as diamonds, skin as tough as leather. So give you your comparisons. We use like or as for those. Metaphors. Saying one thing is something else. His nose was a gnarled root growing out of his face, rather than his nose was twisted and misshapen. So we can think about all these things. The other types of figurative language, you've got onomatopoeia, which uses words that sound like what they mean. For example, the pitter-patter of raindrops, the crackle of fire from the dragon's mouth, the rustle of the wings as he's stretched. They've got the ideas here. The ping of the knight's armor, the clank of the sword against the dragon's teeth, the thump of the shield as the wings strike it. So we can use these, we can build these onomatopoeia into our writing. This is what we're looking for. Hyperbole, a form of exaggeration. So we're going really big. So he rang the doorbell 1 million times. It's not possible to ring a doorbell 1 million times, but it gives you the idea that you're banging on that doorbell over and over and over again to get someone's attention. So you could have the knight struck 1,000 blows. It's unlikely he would have done, but it gives you the idea that he's bashing away trying to beat this dragon. You could have the dragon returned, biting hundreds of times at the shield and the sword, trying to disarm the knight. He might only have bitten 2 or 3 times, but it starts building in the cut and thrust of your battle scene and how you can use that and really, really bring it to life and show your reader that it's an important scene. It brings them in. Again, it gets them wanting to carry on reading. So the other thing we've got to be careful of is be wary of over-describing. So be creative, but don't go mad with it. If you've got 2 or 3 really good ideas that describe a scene, keep to those. Don't try and add in more because, oh, I need to put more in because Mr. Hill said, oh, we need to really describe our scene. If you feel like I've put 2 descriptions in, so I might say the dragon stood up, teeth like daggers, the leathery skin glistening in the light. I'm going to leave it there. I'm not going to add on anymore because I've described my dragon. Everyone in their head has the idea that dragons are green. Don't know why, but that seems to be the color that most dragons are. We've described the skin, we've described the teeth, that our imagination can fill in the last little gaps and details. So you don't need to describe every part. So limit yourself 1, 2, at most 3 details. So the first time you introduce a character or a setting, that's really important so that you can drip in other details as you go through. So, short write task for you. So using the tricks that we've just talked about, and maybe if you want to, you could go back and magpie some of the ideas that I've given you. Write a description of the 2 characters in the picture. Cut out the obvious descriptions. Use surprising words. Remember the sensory details. We've got 5 senses: sight, sound, smell, touch, taste. Think about those. Make use of your figurative language, your similes, your metaphors, your onomatopoeia. Think about who is doing the describing. Are you describing from the point of view of the knight? Are you describing from the point of view as someone who's retelling the story that wasn't actually there? So if we think about Beowulf, we've got the descriptions built into there in our model text. And our final point, be really careful of over description. So I would say, here's the challenge for you. This is what you're going to do. 3 sentences for each character. Pack as much description in there as you can, but don't go too mad with it. So don't make your sentences 4 lines long. The sentences can be short, they can be snappy, they can get the description in. See how you get on. Pause the video here to complete this. Okay, we're going to move on now. We're going to look at our box up. So using the model box up that we did yesterday, so you should have that with you, and your own nightmare. So that was the box that we hadn't done, that you've done yourselves. What can you change in order to make the story your own? What different ideas can you use instead? So instead of Beowulf and Grendel and the king, could you find another way? Could you find some different characters? Maybe you could have a princess and a knight and a dragon, the classic medieval story. Could you make it your own? So finish up the box up. I'm going to show you in a second what it should look like when you're done, with your own ideas ready to share in our next live session. So we had the anticipation. Hear and listen, we had our introduction. So the anticipation introduces the setting, introduces our support character, and tells us of how the problem began. The next paragraph, or the next box we've got, is the dream. So we introduce the main character. There's talk between the king and the main character about the quest, in this case, Grendel. It might be, in your case, it might be the princess and the knight slaying the dragon. You could flip it on its head and have the princess saving the knight from the dragon. But this is your box up. These are just some ideas that you might want to try out, see if you like them. You might have a better one. We move on to the frustration, the journey to the monster or the monster's attack. Then we have the fight. The nightmare, this was the bit you did. So the hero gets into a situation in the fight where all hope seems lost. The hero is that far away from losing. One false move, one slip, and that's it. The end of the story right there. The hero doesn't succeed. We then come to the miraculous escape. The resolution of our fight scene. The hero manages to overcome the nightmare through skill, cleverness, courage, or just plain luck. What's his reward? What's her reward for defeating the monster? And can you leave us with a little bit of a hint that there's more trouble to come? I look forward to seeing these in our next live session. Share them on Tapestry as well, don't forget. And if you need to go back over anything, if you want to magpie some ideas, or you want to go back over the model text, go back through the playlist. The videos are in there for you to support you. Good luck, stay safe, and I'll see you again soon.